Welcome to the presentation 4x4 Consulting. We look forward to hearing from you. First of all, just an introduction of the judges. My name is Intisar Durham. I am one of your senior judges. I am a senior consultant with a large engineering firm out here. Before, like I said, we'll have the judges introduce themselves, but before I go to that, I'd like to kind of set some ground rules. So in this part of the competition, you're taking on a fictional business identity and assigning fictional business identity to the judges. Please make sure that you do so and let us know what role we're going to play. You will have 25 minutes to describe the legal, financial, and ethical dimensions of the problem you propose and the recommended solution that passes muster on all 3 counts. During this time, we promise we're not going to be interrupting you. However, I'm going to keep time, so 25 minutes is it. You're getting no more. We will follow that with a 10 to 15 minute Q&A where we, both you and us, the judges, will be in character. So we'll be asking you, under whatever role you assign us. After the Q&A, the formal Q&A, we would love to give you some feedback on how the presentation went. And with that, I'll go to the judges to say hello and introduce themselves briefly.
Well, good afternoon. My name is Joe Wilkins. I'm also a senior judge and delighted to be with you today.
Thanks, Joe.
Yes, hi, I'm Miriam Naya, and I was a 99 LMU MBA graduate. I currently am in the staffing, HR, and compliance industry, and previously, for 15.5 years, I was with Toyota Financial Services, and I worked specifically with South America and Brazil. So interesting project, and didn't realize it would be so inclusive of my experience. And I had jaw surgery. I broke my jaw. So excuse me on my, the way I'm communicating is because I had my jaw wired shut. So just 10 days ago. So excuse me or ask for me to repeat if you can.
No worries. We understand you perfectly. So no worries there.
Okay, great. That's perfect. Thank you. Looking forward to this too as well.
Miriam. Okay, who else do we have? Dan?
Yeah, Dan Koskovich. I'm a CPA and have spent my entire life in the corporate world, chief financial officer for a large number of companies. Including companies that did a lot of acquisitions and companies that dealt a lot with the medical device development and design world. So encountered many ethical situations in my time in my working career. And so I'm looking forward to seeing how everyone presents this current problem that we're going to discuss today.
All right, team 4x4 Consulting, here you go, 25 minutes.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We are 4x4 Consulting, and we are so excited to speak with you about how Audi will power up Brazil. So this is our current agenda. Through this presentation, we want to take you on a journey to a world where 1 in 3 automobiles are electric and everyone has access to clean and sustainable energy solutions. It's a pretty exciting thought, isn't it? Well, what if we told you there was a potential threat to this vision? And that would be the lithium-ion batteries that actually power these electric vehicles. With your mission of having an all-electric fleet by 2029, it is now more important than ever for Audi to be proactive in determining the next steps for EV batteries that are retired from vehicles. These batteries are typically estimated to retain up to 80% of their capacity and have many potential second life capabilities. So today, we want to help you answer the question, what should Audi do with the remaining battery capacity before they recycle their EV batteries? So before we dive into that, we want to talk about our team. So 4x4 Consulting, it consists of Colleen Azelby, me, Kylie Bird, and Alex Taylor. So let's talk a little bit more about the problem. In the last decade, there has been a major shift towards the deployment of electric vehicles from auto manufacturers worldwide, including right here at Audi. With this incredible shift in electric vehicle development, the EV market is expected to continue to grow exponentially, with some experts stating that there could be 145 million EVs by 2030. In Brazil alone, they're projected to be 2 million electric vehicles by 2030. Although this is a step in the right direction towards sustainable transformation development, experts believe there could be 12 million tons of lithium batteries retired by 2030. And if these batteries are not recycled properly, they could end up as electronic waste in landfills and cause air and water pollution. So again, we ask the question, what should Audi do with their remaining battery capacity before recycling? So before we tackle that problem, let's talk about another one. In Brazil, there are approximately 12,600,000 people that live in low-income communities known as favelas. These favelas are often overlooked by the Brazilian government, and they typically have poor infrastructure and regulation. The electrical infrastructure in these particular favelas range from poor to non-existent, and many residents do not receive service from designated power companies. To put this in perspective, 35% of the 3,500 residents in the Morro de Sereno favela are serviced by legal electricity providers. Because of these inequalities, many residents resort to building illegal connections known as gatos. These gatos can overload the power grid and they cause constant blackouts. These residents of favelas are often left for days without electricity, and they lose precious resources such as their appliances through burnouts and perishable foods. Now, there are steps being taken towards more renewable energy options. Currently, Brazil is heavily reliant on hydroelectric power, with it being over 64% of all electricity consumed. Although this renewable energy source is great on paper, Brazil has endured the worst droughts in recorded history over the last decade. With the most recent drought that spanned from 2014 to 2015, many hydropower plants were still feeling effects through 2022. And they had to operate at a fraction of their total capacity. So it's important for us to also note the effects of climate change and natural disaster when it comes to power in favelas. So this raises another question. How can reliable and sustainable power be made available in Brazilian favelas? Well, we at 4x4 Consulting propose that Audi partner with the Brazilian lithium-ion battery specialist Energy Source and the Agência de Energia Elétrica to repurpose their EV batteries into community energy storage solutions in favelas. We suggest that this should be implemented through a pilot program in the Santa Marta favela. This community is home to 4,000 residents, and it's located in the south zone of Rio de Janeiro. We chose this particular location because although they receive government regulated power through the distributor Light SA, 30 to 60% of residents still rely on illegal gatos. Through our proposed pilot program, the PPP would present energy solutions to a small community within the favela to begin educating the locals and to expand to other communities within Santa Marta. Then eventually with plans to expand to new favelas throughout the country. So through this community energy storage solution, we believe it will help to mitigate the effects of power grid failures while also allowing residents to have a sustainable energy source. So given that Energy Source will be a main partner in this implementation strategy, we wanted to quickly touch upon who they are and the services that they actually offered. So Energy Source is a technology company based in Brazil that was founded in 2016 that offers innovative solutions for lithium-ion batteries to promote a circular economy. Their services include battery recycling, where they break down lithium-ion batteries to extract their raw materials, battery reuse, where the batteries are evaluated to determine which have additional capacity versus which need to be recycled. And then they also partner with other companies to offer energy solutions projects focused on repurposing second life lithium batteries, including energy storage solutions, which is what we'll be focused on. And then finally, they also have battery repair processes where they use a state-of-the-art technology to repair batteries that are still viable for use. So given this fantastic suite of service offerings, We believe a partnership with Energy Source will help your team at Audi successfully implement this energy storage solution to help empower Brazil's favela communities. Through our proposal, we believe Audi can address UN Goal 7 of affordable and clean energy by reducing energy costs for residents through a renewable power source. And we also believe it can tackle Goal 11 by promoting EV battery life extension and providing efficient energy to these communities. So what exactly does the life cycle of this battery look like? Well, it starts with a used Audi electric vehicle battery. The battery will be delivered to an Audi location. Then it would be leased to Energy Source for the repurposing process. From there, Energy Source will work with Anil to deploy, From there, Energy Source will work with Anil to deploy the energy storage solution until the batteries reach their end of life. From there, the batteries will then be returned to Audi to be recycled and broken down into their material components. And then this will be reused in the manufacturing of new EV batteries to restart the cycle all over again. By leaning into this closed loop process, we believe that Audi will be able to mitigate the environmental impacts of used batteries while also lowering the cost of the manufacturing of new ones. Now I will pass it along to Colleen to discuss the strategic alignment of our partners.
Great. Thank you, Kylie. So in order for this initiative to be successful, there of course needs to be strategic compatibility amongst all partners involved. And we believe that a community energy storage solution fully aligns with Audi, Anil, and Energy Source's strategic goals. So as you already know, Audi has its Voorsprong 2030 strategic initiative, where it's going to have an all-electric fleet by 2029. And Audi has also made ESG a priority for its entire product lifecycle. So extending the life of your EV batteries will not only help Audi generate additional revenue, but it can also help further its socio-environmental goals. And given Audi's commitment to an all-electric fleet, there is also the opportunity to replicate this initiative in other markets in the future. So this initiative also falls in alignment with Anil's strategic goals to promote a regulatory environment that ensures quality electricity services are provided to its citizens at fair prices. And entering a private-public partnership will ensure Anil has the appropriate oversight to achieve its goals through community energy storage. And we'll talk more about that partnership later on. And then finally, this solution also aligns with Energy Source's mission to be a leader in energy storage and sustainable technologies that promote a circular economy. So this strategic alignment between your goals and those of your partners will help improve the success of the community energy storage solution. This also has particular benefits for you all at Audi, which we'll discuss later in the presentation. So let's dive into the business model that we're proposing. And this is a fairly new endeavor for you all at Audi, so we're going to walk you through this step by step. So first, Audi will lease its used electric vehicle batteries to Energy Source. Audi and Energy Source will then partner with Anil, which again is the national electric regulatory body in Brazil, and will also partner with a favela community. As Kylie mentioned, we recommend piloting this first with the Santa Marta favela in Rio de Janeiro, and we've chose this location due to its smaller size, its close-knit reputation, the level of need, and its previous commitments to other social projects. Energy Source will then build out energy storage equipment within the community using Audi's used EV batteries. The batteries will charge during off-peak hours as they'll be connected to the grid when prices are lower. So they'll get those at reduced rates. Then the community will be able to buy energy at a reduced rate and will also have additional energy capacity during any blackouts that occur. Energy Source will then earn revenue from those energy sales. And finally, the community will gain job training as it will actively participate in equipment maintenance within the community. So how does this solution really make a difference for favela community members? Brazil uses an hourly spot pricing model for its electricity, which means that prices are determined based on supply and demand each hour. By charging batteries during low demand hours at reduced pricing, community members can access the stored energy during peak hours at those reduced prices instead of paying the higher premium during the high demand hours. So the average household inhabitant in Brazil uses 193 kilowatt hours of electricity per month. And on average, electricity costs approximately 11 cents USD per kilowatt hour during off-peak hours and 15 cents USD per kilowatt hour during peak hours, which is usually 6 to 9 p.m. So this means that community members can save up to approximately $8 per person per month. And with the average household in favelas being 4 people, that represents a savings of up to $32 per month. And when your average monthly salary per household in favelas ranges from $170 to $316 per month, saving $32 a month can have incredible impact for your family. So through this, we're recommending that Audi partner through a public-private partnership with Brazil's National Agency for Electric Energy, ANEEL, and the Brazilian Development Bank in order to facilitate project implementation, regulatory compliance, and funding. So how would this partnership work? Audi and Energy Source would propose a joint project with ANEEL and the Brazilian Development Bank and petition for funding through the Partnership Structuring Support Fund. The project value for this initiative needs to be a minimum $2 million USD with a 10-year duration. And Energy Source and Audi must be involved in the full process from recycling batteries to energy storage. Audi and Energy Source would remain in charge of establishing the infrastructure and operations while earning revenue from EV battery leases in Audi's case and energy sales in Energy Source's case. And the government would retain oversight of the infrastructure and project planning in order to ensure public interest needs are met. And the risks will be shared between ANEEL taking on the regulatory and jurisdiction risks, and Audi and Energy Source managing project risk. So it does eliminate some of the risk across all parties. But while public-private partnerships can help facilitate these infrastructure projects, there are challenges associated with this approach. Brazil has a well-established legal framework for funding PPPs, but buy-in is really required from all parties to make this partnership successful. And we really feel like we're mitigating for that by having a local partner with Energy Source and a strong relationship with ANEEL. Both of those will be absolutely crucial to ensure the success. And Audi, you all at Audi must be prepared to foster long-term relationships in order to really take advantage of the financial opportunities that this solution offers. And I'm going to pass it off to Alex to talk about those financial opportunities.
Yes, so I will actually be speaking on the financial opportunities. So we recognize that there are 3 potential opportunities for Audi here. So first is a new revenue stream through leasing of the EV batteries to Energy Source. This would actually provide Audi with a new revenue stream that could help to offset the cost of the manufacturing and maintenance of the batteries. The second that we recognize is a new market opportunity. This partnership could provide Audi with an opportunity to expand within the Brazilian market, as well as establish itself as a leader in sustainable energy solutions in the country. And then finally, the extended EV battery life. This partnership would also contribute to more sustainable energy solutions in Brazil by providing backup energy storage solutions to favelas, which may not have reliable access to electricity, as we mentioned before. But extending these EV batteries actually gives a more sustainable way for them to be used rather than just tossing them away and having them go into waste. Now, what do the actual numbers look like here? So first, in terms of the revenue, batteries are typically about $40 to $150 per kilowatt hour, To put that in perspective, one battery equals about 95 kilowatt hours. On top of that, there's also carbon and other environmental credits that can come along with this project, which can be up to 30% of the tax income. In terms of expenses, we believe that there will be a labor and maintenance cost of about $15 per kilowatt hour. And then from there, we also believe that marketing would be about $500 per month. And this is to spread the word to Audi's customers. With that, we have an earnings before income tax of about $12,325 and a tax rate in Brazil of 27.5%. So with those numbers, that brings our net earning per battery to $8,935.63. Now, based on a basic example of a community energy storage solution, we estimate that 5 EV battery packs will be necessary to power one storage unit. But we want to take it a step further. We believe that it's important to also have a backup energy solution available just in case. So in this proposal, we say that there would be 10 EV batteries in particular. And so that comes out to a total net earnings of $89,356.30 per Audi. So it's amazing. To put it in perspective, Audi will not only be able to provide clean energy to dozens of homes, but also make a profit for each battery utilized that can be reinvested into the community or into more electric vehicle innovation. So now I will talk about the financial risk and how we are mitigating that. So first, we have compliance costs. We are mitigating this by forming a strong partnership that is established through the PPP and having an upfront pricing agreement that will be outlined as we go through this process. Next would be the operational maintenance. So this will be mitigated through continuous training of the staff and locals, as well as regular monitoring by Energy Source and ANEEL. Finally, higher upfront costs. So the PPP will actually receive funding from the Brazilian National Development Bank through the Partner Structuring Support Fund, which is the fund that's used to help with building private partnerships with the Brazilian government. And then we also believe this will be mitigated through the scalability of the project in the future.
Great.
Now on to Colleen for legal considerations.
Yeah, so there's just a few other legal considerations that you'll need to make when entering the Brazilian market for energy storage. The first is intellectual property. Given that Audi is already operating in the Brazilian market and has already entered into projects, we've assumed that your team has already accounted for this. The second will be energy regulation. There are the energy market's divided between regulated energy overseen by ANEEL and the free market, which allows private contracts to be established between providers and institutions. And given our recommendation of entering a public-private partnership with ANEEL, we expect this initiative to fall within the regulated energy market, where ANEEL will be the regulatory oversight body for this. Your team at Audi, however, will have the option of pursuing free market contracts if you decide not to pursue a public-private partnership. And then finally, Brazil has a national solid waste policy that requires a return process for battery disposal. So once batteries reach the end of their useful life, Audi will need to have a reverse logistics system in place to fully recycle those batteries. And our solution helps mitigate this law by providing Audi the opportunity to use Energy Source as a resource for this battery recycling, or Audi can pursue other strategies for recycling their used batteries.
So when thinking about the partnership, we needed to look at potential ethical implications for you and 25% of Rio citizens that are living in favelas. So first, the partnership must establish clear guidelines and strict safety protocols to minimize risks, like batteries being used outside of their specified parameters. Second, engaging the favela communities through transparency and accountability in program implementation ensures the project benefits everyone, and we'll highlight these in our metrics of success slide. Third, investing in capacity building for favela residents can help maximize the project's benefits. Your involvement in this project has the opportunity to create jobs and create more equitable access to energy for lower income communities. And then lastly, developing local partnerships within the favelas and PPP mitigates challenges from both cultural differences and considers local context. By involving community leaders, local orgs, residents with the planning of the project, This ensures that the favela residents are being prioritized. And as you know, Audi has strong brand presence in emerging markets like Mexico and South Africa. And while both of these countries have tried adopting sustainable energy technologies, their regulations are not as well established and comprehensive as in Brazil. Additionally, the compact size and vicinity of the favelas makes the energy distribution easier and more easily scalable. We considered using your EV batteries as mobile power sources, residential energy management systems, and disaster relief options, but there are some drawbacks there. So first, EV batteries can be used as mobile power sources for off-grid living, but this application is not an efficient use of power capacity. For residential management, EV batteries can store excess solar energy, but this requires complex installation, and solar is not widely implemented in Brazil and even less in favelas. For disaster relief, EV batteries could power emergency shelters, but this requires greater energy capacity. So traditional generators or larger power banks are better suited here. Ultimately, community or energy storage in Brazil favelas is more practical and scalable solution for this pilot program. So let's take a look at some overall benefits. So from the environmental side, in addition to the illegal electrical hookups, as we've mentioned, many favelas rely on gasoline generators for backup energy, and this creates carbon dioxide emissions and greenhouse gases. And as you've indicated in your CSR reports, Audi is committed to reducing CO2 emissions over the next decade. From a financial perspective, this pilot program creates jobs and training opportunities where local residents can learn technical skills. This not only contributes to economic development of these communities, but also reduces overhead costs. From the government side, in addition to expanding with your presence in Brazilian markets, the partnership helps you build relationships with key stakeholders in the Brazilian energy sector and further positions yourself as a leader in sustainable energy solutions. And then lastly, from the social side, by participating in this partnership, you demonstrate your commitment to sustainable development. And this has positive impact on your brand as stakeholders increasingly value companies that actively engage in CSR initiatives. So your focus on ESG issues and collaboration with local partners gives you a competitive advantage and access to new markets. So let's look at what the metrics of success would look like for this pilot program. So first, lower energy costs. The PPP can aim for a 20 to 30% reduction in energy costs compared to current costs with unreliable grid connections. Secondly, increased reliable energy. The PPP can aim to improve energy reliability for 50 to 70% of the households in selected favelas. Third, cleaner air. This PPP can reduce air pollution by replacing 50% of gasoline generators. Fourth, create more jobs. This pilot program can create 50 jobs directly related to this project, as we talked about with training local favela residents. And then lastly, awareness and expansion. The project can aim for a 60% increase in residents benefiting from the program, being able to identify key benefits, and also shifting towards more reliable energy solutions. So in conclusion, we recommend that you partner with Energy Source and Anil to repurpose your EV batteries as energy storage for the Santa Marta favela in Rio. Your involvement in this PPP can provide alternative and sustainable energy solutions to Brazilian favelas. This creates increased storage for energy, reliability, and reduction in safety hazards. Your involvement in this project facilitates empowerment for equity, and you are enhancing socioeconomic development for favela residents. And then lastly, you're able to reuse your EV batteries for alternative revenue sources. This pilot program allows you to repurpose EV batteries for storage or bringing it to scale. Thank you so much.
Thank you, 4x4 Consulting, for an excellent presentation, excellent topic on sustainable development. I have a couple of questions, but I'm sure we have many more. So of the 2 million EVs in Brazil by 2030, what is our percentage? What's Audi's share in that market? And the second part is, what do we do currently with these batteries that are half spent?
So, do you mind repeating the first part of the question?
So
Sorry.
the first question is
there-
the 2 million. What's Audi's share of the 2 million EVs that are projected in Brazil by 2030? How big a market share do we have of the EV market?
Yeah, so I can handle that. And then Kylie and Colleen, if you want to chime in. So Audi actually is one of the leading, if not the leader. It's I believe first or second in terms of EV brands that are in the Brazilian market space. So in terms of the 2 million, it's slated probably around 40 to 50%. There are other players as well, but Audi is very well positioned, which is specifically why we highlighted going into the Brazilian market, as opposed to I talked about in some of the alternative considerations, instead of looking at Mexico or South Africa, even though Audi also has very high market share there, they're positioned third and fourth respectively.
Okay, great. Good to know that we have a big share. So this pilot program could have a big bang for the expense. The other part of my question was, what do we currently do with these batteries? Are they sent for recycling? What is the income that's generated from that? What is the cost that's associated with it?
Sure. So the Audi is currently recycling its batteries primarily through a company called Redwood Materials, which breaks batteries down into their raw components. But there's still a lot of useful life left on those batteries. So this proposal is sort of a middle of the road way for Audi to just continue to earn more income off of those used batteries before they're ultimately recycled to their raw materials at Redwood.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, it would help if to continue that same question. So just to understand just a tiny bit more on the functionally how this would work. So I think you had indicated there's about 20% of useful life. Is that 20% of capacity of the batteries? So does it take 5 batteries to store the amount of energy that a single battery would hold if it was brand new?
That's a good question. So it's actually 80% of the capacity is still available once it's removed from the vehicle. But it's not that we need to have multiple I guess we don't need to have multiple to power one another. They would all work together in tandem. They all would have enough power to fill in that community energy storage system. But it would be about 80% rather than 20.
Okay. And it wasn't clear to me, what is the space requirement? You had mentioned like a 10-pack. That what would help me a little bit there too would be if one of the 10-pack units was placed into a community, how many residents would that serve? And what kind of space and real estate would that take up?
Oh, Colleen, I think you're on mute.
Yeah, so I think size-wise, real estate space, it would be the size of a small shipping container. And then for number of residents served, correct me if I'm wrong, Alex and Kylie, but I believe it would be was it about 1,000 residents? Is that about right?
500 to about 1,000.
Yeah.
Okay, so conceivably a space that size, unfortunately, in a place like the favela would probably displace what, a couple families?
No, not necessarily, because one thing that we can do in terms of it doesn't have to necessarily go right inside. Like there is opportunity to either put it like adjacent or like near the entrance. So even though these favelas, for the one that we're talking about, Santa Marta, has about 6,000 residents, there is opportunity for us to be able to figure out other spaces as well. So it wouldn't displace anyone because those houses that are there wouldn't come down.
So basically, if that was roughly, you said roughly 500, so it would take about 12 of these to provide the backup power opportunity that you're talking about in this one particular favela?
Yeah, so maybe a better way to think about this, and apologies maybe if this wasn't clear, and Colleen and Kylie, feel free to jump in. It's not that all favelas use illegal electrical hookups. So for example, Santa Marta does have some legal electrical hookups through Anil and Light SA. The issue though is that even despite having legal electrical hookups, 30%, it's estimated, but 30% of favela residents still rely on either gas generators for backup energy or use illegal electrical hookups for backup energy. So the plan is to slowly kind of move the illegal electrical hookups or some of these other potential environmentally damaging or health risks associated with the generator. So we're looking at a very small subset first. Being able to determine, is this size the correct favela to go in before expanding into either large favelas? Because the largest favela in Rio is about 200,000, but we thought trying to implement something of this scale initially with that large of a population could have potential issues. So we thought better to start small, see how that does before scaling it out.
Okay, and then just one ethical situation that I feel like there's a bit of a conundrum. So the ethics of much of what you said is fairly clear to me. But on the other hand, is this not a Band-Aid approach that would then give the government and the energy suppliers sort of a safety blanket that, well, okay, that's good enough for the favela? Is there a risk that we stop development of legitimate power into the areas by providing this Band-Aid approach to give people, some comfort in the fact that people have some energy now? That's good enough.
Well, the goal would be that through this partnership, sorry, Colleen, I'll let you jump in as well, but the goal would be that through this PPP and working directly with the NEAL, who is that governing body that works on this specifically, they will be in this particular partnership for 10 years. So if there is any sort of contractual breaking or anything like that that goes on, there is also the option that Colleen discussed where there's the free market besides just the regulated. The hope would be that there wouldn't be that sort of issue where we would need to break the contract or there would be anything like that. But there is always that free option where it doesn't need to be regulated. It could just be a private, or Audi an energy source can just switch it to a private form of energy rather than regulated.
Okay, I think I understand better. So basically, this gives us as Audi the opportunity, perhaps in conjunction with development that's going on by Anil all around the country anyway, to be able to provide some base level assistance to the folks who are probably last on the development list, to be able to have something rather than nothing over the intervening 10 or 15 years.
Exactly.
Okay,
with goals to expand that as much as we can.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Joe?
Yep, just 2 questions. I am thinking that we manufacture cars. We're one of the highest quality German manufacturers of really high quality, sporty, amazing vehicles. And then I hear the presentation and I hear, your theme is around empowering communities through energy storage. And so I'm just a little confused. I mean, I'm about selling cars, making cars. Why in the world would I think about empowering communities through energy storage? I understand there's the new EV approach, but I'm just feeling like as a board member, that's kind of out of our scope a bit. I understand the partnerships that you talked about, but I need your help in helping me understand. So one of the things that you did cite clearly was the sustainable development goals. You did highlight goal number 7, affordable and clean energy. And then you also highlighted number 11, sustainable cities and communities as the motivation of all this. So can you help drill down a little bit on those two goals and why that's so important for us as a board to really think about what you're proposing in front of us today?
Yeah, I'm happy to take that. So I think that this really goes back to when we talked about the strategic alignment with Audi's 2030 Vorsprung initiative. It's been committed to reducing carbon emissions and making their fleet all electric. But it's also prioritized ESG through its full product life cycle. So Audi also has been already acting on these initiatives in Brazil by doing other projects with local communities. So this is just an expansion of those commitments as well, but by empowering communities through energy storage. And we feel that, by providing community members the opportunity to maintain their own energy storage by providing those jobs and skills, and then also, power to run their businesses at more affordable rates, take care of their families, have that extra money. That's really just Audi's ESG commitments coming to fruition, in addition to those meeting those UN goals.
Okay.
I would like to make another note on top of that. So aside from the ESG and CSR that Audi has, I think one thing that's really important, as I believe Kylie had mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, the repurposing of EV batteries in terms of an energy storage solution is extremely new. There are about 2 other EV car brands that are doing this, but we believe that if Audi can really showcase itself in terms of positioning itself as a leadership in this energy application, there are far wide-reaching potentials where Audi can then be considered as the go-to supplier for broader energy solutions and really position itself in terms of other government partnerships, not only in Brazil, but from other worldwide government agencies as well.
So, okay, great. One more question that sort of follows your line of thinking there. Have we thought about if the decision comes in our direction to allow other EV manufacturers to participate in this partnership, ethically, how would you respond to that? Should we not? How would that look if all of the other, our competitors actually wanted to really join around this collaborative effort?
So we actually did discuss this. And at first that was something that we looked at as a negative, but then we went back and we realized there's nothing negative about that. We would like to help these favelas. And if there are other electric vehicle manufacturers that would like to contribute to this project, we feel that it could be a positive. But by having you as Audi be one of the first in this business and have that first mover advantage of getting to understand, how does the solution work? How can we improve it? How can we expand it? We think it'll position Audi to be a leader that other EVs can follow. And that's what we were thinking in terms of the competitive landscape. But we do believe that this is something that other EV manufacturers should also pursue as we try to come to a more equitable world.
And then can I just add one more note too? So in the recent ESG report that you guys released last month, there's a whole focus on circular economy and kind of what does that look like in theory versus the application. So I think, as Kylie alluded to, Audi kind of spearheading in terms of taking the theoretical ideation of what circular economy looks like in EV vehicles and their other materials. I think that only spawns for greater equity for other communities. Additionally, I will say, companies like Redwood Materials that work on the recycling post towards the ends of the EV's life cycle, they don't work with just one car manufacturer, even though it was founded by the former CTO of Tesla. So by being able to kind of expand Redwood Materials outside of Tesla, I think does good for Tesla's brand, but also does really well for other EV brands as well.
Okay. Miriam, do you have any questions?
Yes, actually, that was a real good segue into the question that I had as well, relating to kind of leveraging other companies' knowledge There are many, European, China, South Korea, they're big leaders in the EV market. And, there's some slogans about reuse, reduce, and recycle. So that's been around for a while. So I think that the consideration of looking at partnerships is a very strong suggestion, because it's like reinventing the wheel. There are some companies who already have processes and practices in place, and they also have alliances and knowing how to deal with these different countries. So I think that that is a strong consideration for this project, something we have to evaluate when we walk into this, because you don't want to reinvent the wheel. There's a lot of thought around it too. There's a lot of companies popping up in the battery space. So I think it's really important to really, being a leadership really strokes our egos, of course, but at the same time, we want to make sure we're efficient in the sense of being able to use what's out there already and integrating that with what you're going to be doing, or what we're going to be doing moving forward. So it's more of a comment, but sort of in line with what Joe had mentioned. The other part that I wanted to bring up too is the funding, the financial side of it. Of course, I'm going to bring that up because I am familiar with Brazil. So I don't know how that is being structured in terms of conversation about raising capital to fund these types of projects. Is there something that you can add a little bit more in terms of how that's going to be supported?
Yes, actually. So we did touch on it just a little bit, but in particular, the Brazilian National Development Bank will be probably our biggest funder. They have different funds. One in particular that we recommend is the Climate Fund, which actually can cover up to, I believe, 15% of the funding needed for a project. Another one that we did mention a little bit was that Partner Structuring Support Fund. So that one is actually specifically meant for forming PPPs. And in particular, it's for ones that are for infrastructure development, ones that are for renewable energy, and other things that go into sustainability. So we believe that those will be two of the main funds that will be used to work on this project. But we do believe that there will need to be some capital that's put in upfront from all parties involved. So that would include some from Audi, as well as some from Energy Source and ANEEL, well, particularly the government. So that's how we thought about how we would do the funding. And I don't know if we have any particular numbers up front right now, but that's exactly how we were planning to fund this project.
I think what would be helpful for me in a future analysis would also be, because you had talked about the $8,900 per battery, but we really didn't talk about what is the upfront cost and what is the ROI that gets us to that number. Because I presume that, do you have a sense, what is the cost of the current cost of disposal if we just hand them over to Redwood? What is Audi's cost in that structure? And then what would be the amortized cost, alternative if we went to this other route? I sensed from what you presented that it would probably be fairly comparable, but that's just my guessing as I'm thinking in my head.
So unfortunately, we do not have the exact cost structure. It is a little bit difficult to find just because this EV battery recycling is still fairly new. We don't really see as many of that cost structure available in terms of what's going on right now with Redwood. But that is something that we can definitely try to look into a bit more and try to come back with some better information there.
Very good, thank you.
All right, you see, 4x4 Consulting, I told you we're going to have a lot of questions on your presentation. However, I know we're kind of a little bit over time, but I want to take this opportunity to give you some feedback on your presentation for me and the judges to do so. First of all, I thought your presentation was very professional. I like the background that you had prepared on your slide deck. I always knew whom I'm talking to and who's presenting. All three of you did an excellent job. Kudos to you, Kylie, Alex, and Colleen. You did a really good job. I really loved having an agenda at the start. It's almost like a roadmap, right? It shows you, okay, this is what I'm going to be talking about. So it gives us some roadmap. But yeah, it was very professionally done. Thank you so much for all of the efforts that you had put into it.
Yeah, I would just add to that a little bit of the same. I thought that the slides were really clean. All three of you, your speaking presentation was excellent. I really felt that I was in front of. I guess I would approve the payment of your consulting fee. A couple things jumped out on your slide deck to me. I thought that your metrics of success slide was really compelling. I mean, after you had set up most of the stops on that little curvy road and the other things you had talked about, you really gave me a really concise view of, because each of those pieces had a fairly significant amount of information attached to them. And I think you really made the link for me to see that we go from this, which is good, to this, which is good, which this is really good, and then this is good. And it all starts by us just coming up with a way to figure out who to give our batteries to and to support this plan. I thought that was really compelling. I also thought that it's a complex organization you're proposing, but I also thought the slides and the information you gave overlaying who the members of the partnership were, what each of their benefits of being in the partnership were, and then how they were all mutually tied together. The couple of slides that you did that on were also really compelling. It was quite good. And so I would say overall, I was very impressed. Excellent presentation.
Thank you. Go, Joe.
Yeah, I totally agree with Daniel. He stole my thunder, particularly around the metrics of success. As a board member, currently in a number of organizations, that's the number one thing that I'm looking forward to is how are we going to actually measure whatever it is that we're approving, and that's really critical. So we hold management accountable for execution and success. So that's really critical. I also thought, you know, the slide deck was really well developed and really built up to a progression of why not, right? Why not? You know, even if the rationale wasn't fully articulated, it's still built to a point of we really need to consider this. And so that was compelling to me. I particularly like the community impact, right? So here we are, you know, thinking about a whole new business, right? Other than making cars, right? How what's the impact of that? And it's doing good for the planet, doing good for people and community. So that was really clear. You know, so yeah, I really didn't have any difficult questions that I couldn't get answered by this team. We had a lot of dialogue with you, and you were able to respond very professional and knowledgeable. So you dig deep to understand this challenge that we have. What I loved the most was the innovative, creative thinking around transforming an organization from just making cars to doing good. And so that was wonderful in my mind and my thoughts. So thank you.
Yes, I concur. I think that number one is, I think that your presentation was very fluid and organized well. It flowed from one specific area to the next really well. And of course, I'm a numbers person, so I think that really looking at the metrics, like everyone else said, was critical because, you know, we're always looking at what are we trying to achieve. And so I thought that that really was a great point to include. And of course, I know it was 25 minutes. I would have liked to see numbers because it's always numbers related when you're dealing with such a big project, because those details are so critical to making the decision. So for me, I think that it would be good to include a little bit more to that. But I felt like you were all very natural at what you presented. So it seemed like you really knew what you were talking about. You all three seemed like you included yourselves in all the separate topics. I know sometimes it's divided out, but I felt like you all knew a little bit about everything and just felt very comfortable about speaking about it. Let's see, what else did I want to note? I really love the project, and I think it's something that's very relevant. I think a lot of larger companies, especially automakers, are really going into that space of doing good for the community. So I think it's a very relevant project. So I felt that, of course, I signed up for certain ones to look at because of, as a board member, I wanted to make sure that this was something I focused on because I felt it was important too. So you touch upon not only effectively, the legal aspects, the regulatory, the ethical issues around that, but you also reach out to people's core when you talk about these type of projects because it's community driven. So I really enjoyed it, and excellent job.
If I could just add one last comment, Joe. I think what would have been a really cool ending point to it as well would be able to say, and I think Joe had alluded to it as well, that it would be great if we could say something like between now and 2030, we're going to sell X number of cars positively affecting the lives of this many middle class and well-to-do Brazilians, and the batteries for those cars will power the favelas for this many thousand people, and kind of say, we're making nice cars and making people with money happy, but in the process of that, we're going to make this many thousand people have more reliable and more affordable power. And I think if there was something like that, then it would be really hard not to.
Yes.
We're putting the profits and the byproducts of what we do to take care of people with money and really magnifying that to help people without it. And that might be an interesting punctuation mark to end the discussion with, because then I would really have a hard time saying no.
All right. Well, and on that awesome note, final note, thank you. Thank you so much for Consulting. Thank you, Kylie, Carleen, and Alex. Excellent presentation, and good. All the best of luck to you.
Thank you all so much.
Bye.
We really appreciate your wonderful and really thoughtful feedback and questions.
Definitely.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.